So particularly for a market entry case, there is no um, overall step-by-step approach for the entire case, but there are some of the things that you must always keep in mind for market entry case. Okay, so coming into a market entry case, the things that you should keep in mind or the framework that I have used is, for a new market entry, always keep in mind what is the vision or the goals and the objective yeah, basically the company is having through this market entry. It could either be to increase their brand image, or it could be to make the entire firm more profitable, or it could be to serve particularly a community or anything. It could be anything related to uh, why a particular company is actually venturing into a new market. For majority of the cases, it could be that it's trying to diversify and trying to enter into a new market to diversify the revenue streams. So that could be an objective. So when someone says something like that, the thing that you should keep in mind is, at the end of the day, that industry should be profitable, or should or the product with which they are entering into the market should be profitable. It should not be entering, if they say that we are trying to diversify our revenues, and they should not enter into a airline industry, for example, where where the profitability margin is less than 3% or 2%, right? So those are some of the things that you should keep in mind. So it's always good to understand or know the why is the firm actually, or what is the objective behind the firm entering into a market. Okay, then who are the customers that they're trying to target through the new market. So you could do something like, what are the segments of the customers that they're targeting, what are the needs that they're trying to fulfilling through entering into that market, what is the size and what is the growth rate of the market that they're trying to enter, what is the target market share that they're trying to capture. These are some of the things that you would have to identify, ask, or derive from data that is provided to you during the case, to identify if it's a good option to enter into that market. Okay, take for that matter geo. uh, the way probably the case would have been framed is, okay, when someone says Reliance is trying to enter into the market, you should identify, okay, if they are entering into the market, um, what are some of the needs that they're trying to solve that are not being provided by the existing players. So it could be high data speed, it could be mobile phones that cater to tier 2 tier 3 cities, or it could be cheaper call rates, etc. So those are some of the needs. So who are the primary customer that we are targeting? It could be tier 2 tier 3 cities, or it could be existing customers who are not satisfied with the services provided by other players, right? So what is probably, you would ask questions, or you would ask data related to what is the size of the telecommunication space currently, and what is the target market share that we are looking for. So those are some of the things. If he says that it's it you could make an assumption otherwise, saying that, okay, this is the entire market, say for example $200 billion is the entire telecommunication market, then you could assume that okay, in the first year we could only make a 5% market share, and then you can assume that in the next 1 year or 2 years we would go ahead and make a 10% market share. So the entire, you would identify the revenue that you would get. So from that you would understand if it's a good if it's a good thing to do to enter into that market or not. And we spoke briefly about the products. So the products should actually be in such a way that you satisfy the needs of the customers that you are trying to target. So the products that, for example, Jio should launch is low cost mobile phones, because those are some of the needs, and it should solve it should solve problems related to low price of data. So it should come up with products related to cheap data packs, for example. So those are some of the products that you have to think of, that the company has, or that the company should launch to satisfy the customer needs. So these two should be in line with each other. Then looking at the company, so Generally what we look at is the industry or market that they are trying to enter, is it complementary or is it completely new? If it's completely new, there might be some challenges before entering. So we would be a little conservative when assuming any market shares, etc. So those are some of the things that you would look into. In terms of industry, generally, how is the industry? Is it too competitive? So there are some of the frameworks, like what are the strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats that you can use to identify what kind of an industry is it, and what are the barriers to entry and exit for that industry. For example, in the telecommunication industry, the biggest barrier could be establishing the telecommunication towers. So it requires a huge investment upfront. So you would have to see if that kind of an investment needs to be made. Are we getting the required revenue for that? Okay, so those are some of the considerations that you would have to do. Then what is the entry strategy? Do we start from scratch, or do we acquire, or do we enter with a JV? And which is the market that we should primarily start with? Is it India, is it China, or is it Africa that we should start with? So those are some of the considerations that you should have while talking about a market entry case. So how I would do it is, first, primarily, when someone says we are looking to enter into a market, first understand what are the objectives or goals behind the reason for entering into that market. Then who are the customers, what are the products, and what is the industry that they are entering into. That is how I would put down the framework, and then finally look at the entry strategy. Okay, if it's a yes, then how do we enter? Now, are there any players who are easily available to acquire, or if we are too aggressive or we are too passive, then we can go ahead with starting from scratch. Okay, so those are some of the considerations that you have to ask, clarify, and go through before you solve the case for a market entry case. Any questions for this kind of case?
Just a clarification. Barrier to exit is exiting the
Mhm.
market with minimal losses, right? Or
Yes, correct. So what happens is there are a few markets where there are contracts in place. If you have made large contracts with be it suppliers or be it with customers, right? It will be difficult for you to exit when you want to exit. For example, be it telecommunication space. If you have purchased a lot of, or if you have established a lot of capital, if you have put in a lot of capital for establishing the telecommunication towers, okay, or if you have made long-term contracts with your for example leasing companies for the telecommunication towers, it will be difficult for you to exit if you want to exit, right? It will be a huge loss if you want to exit. So those are some of the considerations that you will have to do. Say for a services firm, for that matter, it could be easy to enter and exit. For firms related to manufacturing or related to telecommunications, etc., it might be difficult to exit. So those are some of the things that you should keep in mind when someone is saying, I would want to venture into that market. Is it good or bad?